Hi guys, welcome back from your snow day. I hope everybody enjoyed having the time off, even though it probably meant you having to shovel or help your parents dig out. But we're back today, and even though I was only here for a half day, I still wanted to walk you through the story we read today, the piece of informational text about Tony Hawk, because we used the form again that we used the day before on a message of hope. And I just want to make sure that we're really getting a good sense of how we really put all this together. Because it's really important to be able to just pick up a piece of text and read through it on your own, know exactly what you have to be looking for in order to make that connection with the text and with the author and with the information, depending on what genre that writing and reading are really designed for you to make. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this. It's going to be really quick because really you're getting into the mode now of practicing. You understand the concept. Now you're really just practicing doing all of this. So I'm going to walk you through what I put on my teacher organizer, and hopefully you will have come up with similar details to establish your point and what your main idea was that you're focusing on. Okay, so I'm going to step out of the shot for a second so that I can get my my mouse for when I need to scroll down later. But as you went through the article, hopefully what you were discovering was that the 5 W's and an H were a little bit different in this particular article than in the last one. In the last one, there was a very specific sort of focus of the article, where in this one it was kind of general and broad, and the main idea was a little trickier to find than it was in Message of Hope. Message of Hope, the title, was a very good indicator for us of what the main idea was. In this one, you kind of have to work at it a little bit. It's called Tony Hawk, Chairman of the Board. Now, first of all, chairman of the board is a pun, because obviously skateboard, and also when someone's the chairman of the board, they're in charge. They have a lot of power and they have a lot of respect. Well, this was about his early skateboarding career. And so chairman of the board doesn't make a lot of sense to us in our head. We have to really take apart what the entire article is about in order to really find the main idea that's at its core of this connection. So as I was going through it, and you can download, by the way, my version of this right at the bottom of this post, along with the article. If you missed it, you can read the article on that same file that you're going to download. It's going to be a 4-page thing. The first 3 pages are going to be the actual article. The last page is going to be this organizer, my version. Okay? So for the who, what, when, where, why, how, the who is Tony Hawk and sort of a little bit other pro skaters. They're mentioned an awful lot. The what is the start of Tony's skating career. We have the very beginning of the article where he's getting the board from his brother, and then all the way through the end, which is kind of the end of the first part of his pro career. It was in San Diego, California for the majority of it. He went to another tournament somewhere else, but San Diego, California is the where. The when, if we take his age from the beginning all the way through the end of the article, it's from 1977 to 1983. So again, we try to put ourselves in that context. 77 through 83, San Diego, California. They talk a little bit about the time and place, and that gives us a broader sense of how Tony Hawk fits into that world. Why? Why write an article? Why is this about the start of his skating career? Because he was so good at such a young age. That's the why. He was so good, so young. How? How was he so good so young? Well, his brother gave him a skateboard, he instantly loved it, and worked super hard at it in order to become better and better and better in the skating community. So, there was a lot of talk throughout of kind of just the start of his career, but at the end we started to see it really taking a turn towards what he meant to skateboarding as a whole. Talking about stuff that the other skaters were saying to him, and then stuff that they were saying to him at the very end. So what we really wound up putting together from the beginning of his career, how he got started, and how he just wasn't your typical skateboarder, it sort of followed him through that into a progression of when he started winning a lot, people started to try to take from him so that they could be more like him as a skater and compete at a higher level like he was. So really what that boiled down to was that Tony Hawk changed skateboarding. People were skateboarding in a different way before he came along, and now they're skating in a different way after he came along. Well, just like with Message of Hope, we have to analyze that. If Tony Hawk changed skateboarding, there are 3 things I need to know. The first thing, what was skateboarding like when he started? The other thing is, what do skateboarders do now? But we can't just have the before and the after. If we're going to say that Tony Hawk was the one that changed it, we need to also have some indication of what made him so special. Why was he the one that was able to change everybody? So those are the 3 supporting details we're looking for. What was skateboarding like when he started? What made him special? What do skateboarders do now? Guess what? I don't know Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk's not my brother. Tony Hawk's not, I don't know him personally. I've watched him an awful lot, but I don't know him personally. So we remember that when we're finding supporting details, we have to go to the person who is the authority on it, and in this case that's Steve Pittman, the author. We're connecting to his informational text. We got to go to him for the supporting details. So I have 2 for all of these now, because you're starting to realize that it's not just one supporting detail that can support these things. You can really grab them from anywhere, as long and if you can't find that much evidence, chances are good it's not your main idea. If it is your main idea, you're going to be able to find lots of supporting details that support it, and that lets you know you're on the right track. Little helpful hint there for you. Okay? If you're looking for supporting details and you can't find them, chances are good you missed the mark with your main idea. But we do have a lot, so I've given 2 for each. There were probably 3 or 4 for each, even in that short 3-page article. So this first one, what was skateboarding like when he started? Well, they give a comparison sentence. Instead of grabbing his board early like all the other skaters, we remember the other skaters grabbed their board early because they were heavy enough to propel themselves up. Tony was tiny, and so he had to start changing what he was doing in order to compete with them. But that shows that there was a difference between them and him. Also, back then, other skaters called him a circus skater. So that shows that what he was doing was completely different, right? What made him special? He invented a different way to catch air. Remember, they said he would ollie before instead of grabbing his board before. He kept inventing tricks, innovative tricks. Remember, this is all from the text. We're all supporting this main idea. We know what it was like before. We know what's making him different. Now, a supporting detail. What do skateboarders do now? How do we know he changed skateboarding? Today, every skater does flip tricks. At the time, Tony Hawk was the only one doing them. All the skaters who had made fun of Tony were trying to learn from him. Again, that shows us that unlike before, when there's an instead of, we have a now all the skaters are trying to learn from him. So we've got a very clear progression of how skateboarding has changed since Tony Hawk's career began. So all of that goes together and ultimately leads us to be able to share out. Because remember, the reason we read and we connect and we try to learn more is so that ultimately we can use this information somewhere, otherwise it ends up in the garbage can. We want to share out the information. So a summary allows us to take the main idea, grab some supporting details, put it all into our own words so that we have something that we can project to somebody else. And if somebody wants to say, "Nuh-uh, that's not true," we can go back because we're using the supporting details, we're just putting our own spin on them. So let's take a look at what I wrote. Yours probably sounds different, but here's a quality summary using the main idea that we established earlier as our thesis statement. Because remember, your thesis statement has the main idea locked up all in it already, and then you go to work proving that thesis statement. Tony Hawk changed skateboarding. Tony started skateboarding at a very young age against much older and bigger competitors. Because Tony was smaller, he had to invent new ways to do similar tricks to compete. He invented many new tricks that involved him ollieing, and you notice I put it in quotation marks because not everybody knows what ollieing is, and flipping his board. That's part of what an ollie is. Also, it's taking ollie to another level when you're able to actually flip your board. At first, other pros made fun of him, but now they all want to learn from him and perform his tricks. Pretty good summary, right? We were able to put that together because we had a clear goal, our main idea, we had clear support directly from the text that we were able to take in, digest, connect to, well, first understand, then connect to, and now we're able to use it, we're able to share it out. That's a pretty darn good summary. It's nothing that you weren't capable of doing. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that some of your summaries are even better than mine. Keep in mind as we continue to practice this that really the formula applies to everything you read. It's always going to be about connection. It's always going to be aimed at you being able to understand by the author using their process and traits. As the words on the page, you analyze the words on the page, you try to understand them, you think through them, you put it all together, you're able to connect with what's at the heart of it, the main idea, the author's purpose behind writing it, and being able to move forward with that new knowledge. One more practice round tomorrow, and then next week we're going to start getting into a little bit of more of a review from the year, and then some helpful test-taking tips so that your assessment is zero freak out for you, and it's just a stage for you to show how much you know, how much you've learned throughout the course of the year. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.